Here in the Northern Rockies, dark winter months are outlasted in basements, dens, and nooks where kindred souls gather together to share intel, swap fly patterns, and relive the memories from seasons past. This gathering spot, known locally as the February Room, is the inspiration for this podcast. No matter the season, the door is always open to those with a fly fishing story to tell. Brought to you by CD Fishing USA, the North American distributor for composite development fly rods and accessories. 40 years of Kiwi ingenuity and graphite technology, now available at cd-fishing.us or your local CD USA dealer. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. And remember to go fishing. Here's your host, the Carnops, and this is the February Room.
Justin here, and welcome to the February Room. Typically, we are reaching out to our friends, guides, writers, artists, photographers, folks in the fly fishing industry, begging for them to come on and tell us a good fishing story. And today's guest actually reached out to us, which is awesome. And he said, hey, I've got a yarn to spin. I'd love to come on and tell you guys my story. So please welcome from Belfouche, South Dakota, Marcus Bevier. Marcus, welcome to the February Room.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me, Justin. And yeah, I do have a yarn to spin. And it's one of those tales that, I don't know if they come once in a lifetime, but it seems that bad luck follows me sometimes. And in this case, it was really bad luck. So my story is pretty short and pretty to the point, but it involved me fishing. It was a Sunday afternoon. The Raiders were playing. They were winning for once, and so it was a really good day. Fishing was spot on, and I was fishing in a place called Spearfish Canyon, and it's nestled right in the Black Hills, and it's a really fun area to fish. Abundant populations of fish. They're not too picky, and nymphing was really, really good that day. And it happened to be about, I want to say it was like 3.5 years ago or so. And just doing standard high stick nymphing or dry dropper, and fish were just snapping things up. I was feeling good. Everything was just going right that day. And got out of the water. My feet started to give out on me a little bit because the water was getting cold. And I figured, it's 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I think I'm just going to call it a day. And so I got out of the water and started packing my stuff up, folding my waders up, stuffing them in my trunk, and started the trip back home. And it's usually takes about, from the spot I was at, it usually takes about 15 minutes to get out of the canyon. And that's kind of going at the normal speed. But I ran into a problem as I was coming out, and there was a car that just kept tailing me. They came from a pullout, and I'm not the most patient guy in the world, and so it was really starting to get on my nerves. I'm sitting there and I'm saying some things that were, probably not appropriate for air, but they're really on my nerves. And I was like, God, why are these people tailing me? They just kept on my back end, and it's like, I got to get out of here. So I sped up a little bit, but they followed. They followed close. It's one of those things where you kind of lose their plate number in your rear view. That's how close they were.
Wow.
And so I was getting kind of nervous on that. And once I got out of the canyon, I figured smooth sailing from there. Notifications started coming back on my phone. Raiders won the game. It was a hell of a day. And I was ready to get back home, eat dinner, and head to work the next day. And so I stopped in town in Spearfish and went to the bathroom, got a Diet Coke and a Snickers, and was on my way home. And sometimes, just because of the nature of my job, I'll get phone calls on a weekend, and it'll be people saying, hey, I'm not going to be in on Monday, or I've got a family event, or something happened. So it's not uncommon that a number that's not in my phone shows up. But about halfway home, I get a call from a 605 number, and it wasn't the extended warranty call. And to be totally frank with you, I got just a little bit nervous because it was like, how this is kind of weird, somebody's calling me on a Sunday. But the better part of me, my gut kind of took over, and I answered the call. And so I picked up the phone and I said, hello, this is Marcus. And the person on the other end said, well, hello, Marcus. This is Officer, and I can't remember his name for the life of me, from the Spearfish Police Department. And I said, well, how are you doing today? And he's like, pretty good. How are you? I'm like, well, I think I'm pretty good. And a million things are going through my head at that moment. I'm thinking, did I leave my wallet at the gas station? Did I forget something into the canyon?
Is he an excited Raiders fan? Just calling to share the win with you?
brother, this is Broncos country. He was not an excited Raiders fan. So he starts talking to me, and it was small talk at first. And he's like, hey, were you up in Spearfish Canyon today? And I'm thinking, oh, gosh, I forgot something. All right. And I said, yeah, I was fishing up there. He goes, well, how's the fishing? I said, oh, it was excellent today. It was great. And he goes, oh, okay. And then he just busts into it. He goes, I got a phone call. I was just wondering, did you put a kid in your trunk? And at that moment, man, I am freaking out. And all I say at the top of my lungs was, a child? And he goes, yes, a child. And it kind of took my breath away for a minute, because I was on the highway already. And, I was right probably halfway home. I was probably halfway home, probably 5 miles left to go. And I said, no, I didn't put a child in my trunk. I said, why? He goes, well, he said, somebody called your plates in Spearfish Canyon. And all I could think of was that person who was tailing me was getting my plates. So somebody called me in, and he said, where are you at right now? I said, I'm right at a landmark called Redwater Bridge, and it's right before a large hill, and it's kind of the halfway point between Belfouche and Spearfish. And so he said, we've got a couple of options. And I said, for what? He goes, well, we're going to need to look in your car. And I'm sitting there like, Jim, you got to be kidding me. And I said, okay. I said, what do you need me to do? He said, given where you're at, he said, it's probably best to just go to the Belfouche Police Department when we get home and have them search your trunk. I said, oh, okay. And at this point, I'm just kind of crapping my drawers. I don't really know what to do. My livelihood's at stake at this point, even though I didn't do anything.
Right.
My livelihood's at stake. And so I said, okay, I guess I could do that. He goes, I'll radio over there. I'll call him up and tell him you're coming. And I'm thinking to myself, God, how did you get my phone number and things like that? And once I had time to cool down, I figured it out. When you fill out the DMV app, you put a phone number on it. And so they've got it in the system. So it wasn't really that big of a reach. I was kind of going through the Big Brother conspiracy theories in my head. And no, it was a DMV form, man. So I get past the bridge, and I call my wife, and she's at home, and I said, Julia, I said, I have to go to the police department when I get home. And she said, what did you do? I said, nothing. I said, I don't think I did anything, at least. And and she's freaking out, and she's like,
I think I kidnapped a child.
Right. And she's like, babe, you could lose your job. She's like, we're screwed. I'm like,
oh no.
I'm like, Julia, I did not kidnap anybody. And she's like, but what did they see? I'm like, I don't know. And at first I was thinking it was like maybe the handle of my fish pond net. And then I didn't even think of it, but it was probably stocking foot waders. And so I said, yeah, I said, I'm freaking out, babe. I said, I don't know what to do. I said, she goes, well, you got to go to the police department. And I said, yeah, I get that. I get it. I know what I need to do, but I don't know what to do. I said, I don't know how to handle this emotionally. I said, I'm struggling. This sucks. And at that point, I get to this large hill called Redwater Hill. And I look to my left because there's a turnout to an old highway. And I see a state highway patrol car. And all I'm thinking to myself is, damn it, I'm getting pulled over. And I knew it, I knew it in my heart I was getting pulled over.
Right.
Just one of those sinking feelings. And so I get about halfway up the hill, and I said, I got to let you go. I'm getting pulled over. And sure enough, the lights come on, and I pull to the side of the road. And the guy gets out and he has me roll down the window, and I look at him, and it was a guy I went to high school with. And so I said, "Hey, how's it going?" And he said, "Hey, how's it going?" And then he looks at me and he goes, "I need to," and I go, "Yeah." And I just popped the trunk for him. And so he goes back into the trunk and he starts moseying around, and I've got rods pushed through the seat, and I've got a ton of crap. I mean, it looks like a fly shop back there. It's just pure hell. And I'm hoping he doesn't, poke his finger with a hook or anything like that. But he starts going through things, and he doesn't find anything. And he just looks at me and he goes, "Just have a nice day." And I'm like, "Whoa, wait a minute." I'm like, "What's going on here?" He's like, "You got called in. Somebody said you stuffed a kid in your trunk." I said, "Yeah, I know that part." I said, but why all this?" I said, if I would have taken a kid, I could have dumped him somewhere, And I mean, it was like
not the right thing to say.
No, it wasn't. And I didn't say that to him, but I mean, that's what's going through your head at that point in time, is like, you guys waited 10 minutes for this. Like, there are so many things that could have happened in that 10 minutes. And I mean, my heart's still pitter-pattering in my chest, and I'm still freaking out. And he looks at me and he said, "Do you have any idea of what it was that you may have put in there?" I said, "Well," I said, "I told the Spearfish Police Department that it was my net." I said, "I didn't have a clear head when they called. I was freaking out." And he goes, "Yeah, I understand." He goes, "So what do you think it was?" I said, "I think it was my boot foot waders, or my stocking foot waders." I said, "But they've got an orange foot." So I didn't really think that would be, somebody thinking it was a kid. He goes, "They did." He goes, "And I'll tell you what, man, I'm pissed." And I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "Because they've wasted my time today." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, "I'm sorry, man." And he goes, "No, I'm sorry for you." And I said, "It's all right." I said, "At least nothing bad happened." He goes, "Well, at least you've got a good story out of the deal."
There you go.
And I totally did. But when I got home, I hugged my wife and I talked to her about it, and then I called my parents, and I'm like, "You guys got to hear this." And they were freaking out, and it was a really wild time. And what makes it even wilder is the nature of the work that I do requires me to have federal background checks, as well as other checks to make sure that I'm safe to work with the population I work with. And so, it was our entire livelihood was really at stake based on somebody seeing something.
Right.
Good on them for being on the lookout, but it could have been a really potentially scary situation in our book. It was just one of those things where after it's done and over with and you got a couple of years under your belt, it's like, well, at least there's a good story out of the deal.
Yeah, then you can go back and laugh at it. But I'm guessing the folks that called you in weren't fly anglers, because they probably would have looked at the stocking foot waders. But I can imagine how they could mistake that, especially if it was late in the day. Yeah. Well, that's crazy, man. I have never heard that one before.
Yeah, they called me in, and I mean, good on them for being, I guess, vigilant, but really got to check themselves next time, because it was just one of those things where it was an honest mistake on their part, and fortunately nobody did anything wrong, and they need to look at Sims waders more often, I guess.
I guess so. It's unusual too that the cop in Spearfish, you didn't know him, right?
Not at all, no.
It's unusual that he called you, and obviously he probably thought something was suspicious. For him to call you and ask you the questions that he did, that seems pretty unusual.
I think
you
so.
Think they would do that normally.
No, I would think, and I mean, I don't really have much experience with law enforcement in general, but I would think that they would have followed up on it when the call came in and searched for the plate right away. But I don't have a record. My driving record's pretty clean, and they're able to look at all that, I suppose, I would think, at least, and kind of see who they're dealing with or what they're dealing with, But yeah, he made the phone call instead of having somebody follow me or anything like that. But you know, fortunately for me, like I said, I hadn't done anything wrong. It was just a case of mistaken identity, so to speak, and that's the way it worked out. But it's one of those things, like I said, you can look back on it and laugh at it, but at the time it was pretty scary. It was pretty real.
Yeah, I bet. One time we were at the boat ramp at the Green River in Utah, and it was spring break, and we were in college, and I had talked several of my friends into going on this multi-day river trip with me on the Green River, and most of them didn't fly fish, but they didn't have anything else going on for spring break, so they were like, "Sure, we'll go." So there was a few different people and their girlfriends, and a lot of the folks didn't have much experience with river trips and stuff. So I brought most of the gear, and we were at the boat ramp getting ready to launch, and had dry bags and all this stuff, and
Yep.
and pretty soon, like, an agent from the BLM comes over and starts asking us some questions, and then like a state parks official comes up and starts kind of asking me some questions, and then pretty soon a cop shows up, and so we got like 3 different agencies being represented here at the boat ramp. And they're like, they kind of start going through my stuff, and they're asking us all these questions, and we didn't have any weed with us, we didn't have, we had some beers with us,
Right.
that was it. And they were going through all our stuff and, asking us if we had live bait. And I'm like, no, we're fly fishermen. We don't have anything like that. And one of them asked me to, dig out the contents of my dry bag.
Mm-hmm.
So I grab my dry bag and I drop it on the boat ramp, and there's this loud pop, like boom. And unbeknownst to me, I had a .22 revolver in there.
Oh, wow.
And the thing is that I know better than this. Like, I always left the hammer on an empty chamber in that revolver. But the night before, on the drive out there, one of my friends had been shooting it in camp and gave it back to me, and I failed to check that the chamber that the hammer on was empty. So it was on a live round, and that live round went off in my dry bag, surrounded by 3 cops. And fortunately, the bullet got absorbed by my clothes and stuff in there. It didn't come out. I never found a hole in the dry bag later. Wow. When I checked. But so that happens, and the cops are like looking at me like, what the hell was that?
Right.
And I reach in there, and the first thing I grab is my big mag light. And I'm like, oh, the bulb in my mag light blew up. And they're like, oh, okay. And just totally, no pun intended, dodged a bullet there.
Yeah, you did.
Oh man, yeah, our trip was almost over right before it started. So anyway,
Green's big water too.
Yeah, we were doing like the B section, which was a couple night trip or something. We camped for 2 or 3 nights, and we were the only people there, so they had nothing better to do. There was like, okay, well, let's see what these kids are up to. They look like trouble. They're from Oregon. What are they doing out here? It's freezing cold. Yeah. So anyway, but lesson learned there.
Yeah. It's always crazy when you get law enforcement involved, and unfortunately in your situation, it was at the boat ramp, which we always know those are super efficient and a good time.
Yeah, right. Well, so, all's well that ends well, I guess. We ended up having
the biggest battles at the boat ramp.
Yeah, right. A boat ramp Donnybrook. My buddy used to have a steelhead fly called that.
And now a brief message from our sponsors. Introducing the Trist All-Fly Kit, Composite Development's latest game-changing innovation. Utilizing the same butt section, the All-Fly morphs from 5-weight to an 8-weight via interchangeable sections. Need a little more length? Pop the extender into place, and the 9-foot rod becomes a 10-footer. All housed within an ingenious tri-folding magnet rod tube, the All-Fly is the most versatile fly fishing tool ever devised, negating the need for multiple rods. Switch from delicate presentations with tiny parachutes to hucking gaudy coneheads. This package must be seen to be believed. Go to cd-fishing.us, click the video tab, and see the Trist All-Fly in action. And remember to go fishing.
So, Marcus, your kind of home waters are the Black Hills, and I've never fished out there, man. Can you kind of describe what the fishery's like?
Yeah, I mean, it's all small stream for the most part, and so you're going to see a lot of indicator fishing, smaller indicators, dry flies, streamers. But we also have a healthy population of prairie lakes, which hold pike, carp, bass, largemouth, and smallmouth. And so there's a wide variety of fishing that you can do all in one area. And the crazy thing about the Black Hills is once you get out of the hills, you're in the prairie. And so the geography and landscape changes pretty quickly. Like where I'm at, I'm 10 minutes from the foothills of the Black Hills. And where I live, it's pretty much prairie. It's an agriculture town. And so you see a lot of small streams. If you've ever fished and I haven't fished it, but I fished with guys who are from Pennsylvania. They say, gosh, this place reminds me a lot of Pennsylvania. We don't get as much, I don't think, limestone, but a couple of tailwaters that are out here, but they're not big. They're not like the things you see in Montana or Wyoming or Colorado. So it's mostly a creek fishing game, and dry fly fishing is not as prevalent as it is out west. So you don't see the giant salmon fly hatches or the green drakes or things like that. But you do see a lot of BWOs. You'll see some yellow sallies, some PMDs, things like that. But in really small numbers. They're not those massive hatches where you're choking on bugs. But you do get kind of all aspects of the fly fishing realm. So it makes the area a lot of fun. Another benefit of the area is not a lot of people live out here, and so that's a really nice aspect of it. You're not battling crowds so much, and so you may go on the creek an entire day and see one or two people, if that. And so it's a good place to definitely recharge your batteries.
Yeah, there's no real population base around you to speak of. To go infiltrate those waters. That's a good thing.
It's a great thing. We have Rapid City, which is right around 70,000 people. But, out of that 70,000 people, there's not, 40,000 of them don't fly fish. So it's a small number of folks, and we're right on the border of Wyoming too. And so, we're probably 2.5 hours from Casper, short drive from Sand Creek, over by Beulah, not far from the Bighorn, 4 hours from the Bighorn to Fort Smith from where I live. So, we do have ample opportunity to hit big water if we want to, but fishing's good here. So don't generally need to travel too far unless you're looking for something just a little bit different.
Yeah, or to go run into a bunch of people.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But I've got friends in those places, so that's a good thing.
So how's the pike fishing around you?
It's not bad. There are a few lakes, a couple of bigger lakes, and some smaller prairie lakes that do carry good numbers of pike. And it's not uncommon to see people pull 36 to 40 inch pike on a fly.
Nice.
There's a couple of dams close in Wyoming that if you hold an annual Wyoming license too, like a lot of us do. You go over there and you can rail pike all day, and it's a good time. It does benefit you to have a boat sometimes for some of those bigger waters, but for some of the smaller prairie lakes, you can get a float tube or a personal pontoon and go out there and nail fish all day. So it's pike fishing isn't bad. It's good in the spring until early summer, and then you usually get a bloom or two that happens in some of those lakes. And so it kind of dies off and then picks back up in the fall.
Right. Yeah, man, I love pike fishing. So that's cool. I'm going to have to come out there and poke around one of these days.
It's so much fun. I got into it by accident. A buddy of mine, he said he was tying pike flies, and I was kind of interested in them. And he said, well, do you want to go pike fishing? And I'm like, well, man, I don't have an 8-weight. And he's like, I'll loan you one. And I hate using other people's gear because I don't want to break it. And he's like, no, he's like, just come with us, come fish with us. And so we went out and we had just unheard of numbers day for pike.
Right.
We just smoked them that day. But, you know, most of those pike flies were tied like on a Gami B10S, and the barb wasn't pinched on them. And so, you know, when you're getting ready to release that fish, you better know what you're doing or have a long enough pliers, otherwise it can be messy.
Yep. Right. Yeah. And a lot of those fish, you have to use 2 sets of pliers.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. One to open up the mouth, one to pry the mouth open, and one to remove the hook.
Oh, and they will make a mess of your hands too.
They will. They will. And, you know, I do it. It's funny. My buddy always gives me crap because I usually go with him one of the first trips of the year. And for some reason, I always reach my hand into the mouth of one of the first ones I catch. And every time he's like, here we go again, man. So I'm always bleeding right out of the gate. But maybe my theory is that getting a little human blood in the water gets the pike bite going. I don't know.
Just chumming them.
Yeah, right. What kind of pike flies do you guys run?
They're usually a little bit smaller. You know, I mean, 5 to 8 inches is going to get you most of your fish. You know, you don't necessarily need to go 10 to 12 or anything like that, but, you know, standard, you know, just your hollow ties, bulkheads, stuff with a Buford head, stuff that pushes a lot of water, you know, we'll get them. And so I like to fish like Andreas Anderson's Delivery Man. That's one of my favorites. And I mean, it's a bigger fly, but God, that thing's got so much soul to it. I mean, it just moves. And then I fish a lot of the, you know, they're almost like bulkhead deceiver style flies, you know, with either fish mask on it or just glued eyes. But those seem to do the trick as long as it looks like the silhouette of a bait fish. You're usually in good shape. So you don't need to do much. You just need to find them. And that's half the battle is finding them because they're always cruising.
Right. It sounds like you're kind of a fly junkie.
Little bit.
So do you tie then?
I do, you know, and kind of how I got into fly fishing was just kind of start at the beginning because that's probably pretty important. But, you know, I read a lot as a kid. I still read a decent amount when I have time. But, you know, I started reading about fly fishing, you know, River Runs Through It, The River Why, books like that. And then saw some of the movies and I thought it was cool. I mean, I fell in love with the romanticism of it, you know, dry flies all day. And then I figured out it wasn't that at all. It was a lot harder than it looked in the movies or the books. And so I kind of dropped off it for a while. You know, I fooled around with it when I was a kid, but I didn't really know what I was doing. I mean, my dad and I would go in the backyard, kind of practice casting and things like that, but neither of us were very good. We really didn't understand what the hell we were doing. And so kind of dropped it and spin fished for most of my teen years, you know, and caught a lot of fish and had a lot of fun, but was always attracted to fly fishing. It always kind of stuck in the back of my head. You know, when I got done with college and things like that, the economic crisis had hit, and you know, I'm walking out of graduate school with a lot of education and no experience, and that doesn't make for, you know, a very marketable candidate at that point in time. And I still wanted to fly fish though. I still wanted to. And then I met a woman, and you know, shortly after I finished graduate school and got my first real job in the center part of the state, and didn't really have an area to fly fish, so I thought, until I really got into it. But even then, it was one of those things where it was like, I was always thinking about it, man. It was always in my head, and I couldn't shake it for some reason. And, you know, I worked at a job where it was just pretty reasonable during the school year, but during the summers, it was just insane. And so kind of burnt myself out on that. We started having children, had no balance in my life. You know, I had no healthy hobby to help kind of level things out. And we were getting ready for a career change. And I remember flying back from Chicago shortly before our daughter was born. It was like August, and my wife's like, hey, you know, why don't you just take a fly rod with you and stay with your parents? And and just fish for a day. And I thought, that's a really good idea. And so I did. And I drove back to pier that day, and she asked me, she said, "Hey, how'd it go today? Did you catch any fish?" And I'm like, I think I had a couple of strikes, and I still didn't know what the hell I was doing. I had no idea at all. And so I had to lie to my wife about catching fish, which is, one of those things where it's a white lie that's okay.
Right.
But you don't want to get caught in too many of them. And I had to tell that story a few more times before I started catching the drift on things. But we had a child and prepared to move back home. And it was the strangest thing, but it was the best thing for our family at that point in time, because it allowed my wife to stay home with our daughter, and it allowed us to get back to an area where I had family, and we had things that we loved. And so we both liked being outside. But I decided that at that point in time, I had to have, because I was taking on a job where I was running an organization. And so I had to have some semblance of balance between being a dad, being a husband, running a nonprofit.
Yeah, that's a lot of stress, man.
Well, yeah, and it was we had Nadia in October. We moved in January. Took a new job in January, and so it was all in one fell swoop. Like within 2 months, we bought a house in May, and so it was just really fast. But I've kind of figured that Julie had kind of suggested maybe you should do this, maybe you should get back into fishing, and I thought to myself, well, yeah, but I'm gonna have to lie to you all the time about like catching fish and stuff like that. So I don't know if it's really worth it, but I started studying that winter, and I read a lot of books on fly fishing, read some George Daniels stuff, read some stuff that Kelly Gallup had written, read some of Tom Rosenbauer's stuff, just to kind of get a basic idea of what I really needed to do, and then I started consulting the fly shop, and hanging out there more. And then the numbers started coming in, and I started balancing a little bit better. And my wife has been more than generous with letting me go out when I need to go out, when I need to clear my head, and when I need to get back in the game, because a healthier head means I'm a better dad, it means I'm a better spouse, and it means I'm a better leader at work. And, I think it's kind of cliche to say it, and I've heard a lot of people say it, and I've heard people on your podcast say it, that, in some way, shape, or form, that fly fishing saved their lives. And it's
Right.
it's 100% true. That's not to say that, you'd be wandering around without a home or anything like that, but it saves your sanity. And I don't think that anyone can really explain it until you experience it. It's one of those things where you know it when you feel it, but it's really, really hard to describe that feeling where all your problems wash away in 3 hours. It's absolutely incredible.
You get in the zone, and that's all you're thinking about.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So is there a fly shop in Belfouche?
No, there's not. There are 2 fly shops in the area. There's one in Spearfish. It's more of an outdoor store than a fly shop. They do guided trips in and around the Spearfish area. But the big shop is actually in Rapid City. And we're super, super fortunate to have that shop and the guys who run it, because they're great sticks, and they're good people, and they have one heck of a selection as far as tying materials, as far as rods, reels, etc. go. They carry top end stuff, they carry affordable stuff, but they have a solid operation, and they've been in business a long time. And so I think they've been in business since 96, so right around 25, 30 years.
Oh, cool. Wow, right on. Cool.
But yeah, they have one of the better tying selections around. And you're starting to see fly shops carry that more. Whereas before, I don't think you can make a hell of a lot of money selling feathers, but
Right.
there's been kind of a renaissance in tying, and
Yeah.
and that's cool to see, because you see a lot of creative people out there. But yeah, there's 2 fly shops in the area, and so the one in Rapid City carries quite a bit more as far as materials, rods, reels, etc.
Cool. And how old are your kids now?
Our daughter is 6 and our son is 3. So
Are
Nadia and
you tying
Alexander.
flies with them?
You know, the little guy takes interest in it, which is pretty cool to see. He likes to spin thread around the hook and, you know, pull around on things, and he always wants to tie a squirmy wormy. But
Of course.
he just doesn't know how terrible that material is. And after a while, he's not going to want to tie those because they suck to tie. But yeah, I guess I sort of am kind of a fly junkie. You know, I get out quite a bit, but the tying didn't come until later. You know, it came out of necessity and convenience more than anything.
Again, though, it's good for your sanity, and it gets you thinking about fishing.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, and there's so many resources available. I remember my parents got me it was like a Thompson style vise when I was, you know, 15 or so or whatever, and I just kind of sponged stuff around the hook. I really didn't know what I was doing, and my wife just got tired of me buying flies, honestly, and she's like, "You got a vise sitting there." She's like, "This is a great idea. You're going to save so much money." Like,
right. That's the big lie.
Oh, man, it's like a total carnival game. You ever play those games at a carnival where they're pushing the coins toward the edge? No.
Right.
Well, that's fly tying.
There
It's
you
like,
go.
you know, like $20 more.
Great analogy. Yeah, it is a carnival game. Yeah, that's funny, man. Our kids are 6 and 3 too, and my boy, because I get up early, I just do. I wish I didn't sometimes, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, this time of year, I go downstairs and I tie a half a dozen flies every morning, and now he gets up. Like, if he's not up when I'm up, he's up shortly after. So we're talking, you know, 5:30 in the morning. And he comes down with me, and, you know, he's so excited. "Let's go tie flies, Dad." And I let him pick out the materials, and then, you know, now he'll sit on my lap, and he tied his first don't tell his mother, but, you know, he got his first chubby on down there the other day, and he tied a good one. It was surprisingly good. So yeah, it's cool. It's a fun thing. I remember being a little kid and tying with my dad. It's a you know, better than having them sit down and watch TV or something like that. It's a cool experience to share with kids. Gets their artistic juices flowing.
It really is, you know, and I don't know about you, but like I said, my wife kind of spurred me into it because she just got tired of packages showing up to the house with flies in them, only to have more packages show up the following week, you know, and it's funny because the kids, you know, my wife is big into crafting. She crochets, she does sublimation work, she does vinyl, all sorts of stuff, and so our kitchen is just littered with, you know, from strung schlappen to marabou to vinyl to whatever, and this is just what the kids are kind of growing up around, and you know, in some way, shape, or form, they kind of enjoy it. You know, they'll be going through materials and looking at things, and you know, they're starting to be able to name some of them, and you know, they really like saying words like marabou. They like saying words like schlappen.
Right. Yep. Yep. Flashaboo. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my wife hates flashaboo, man.
It's everywhere.
Everywhere.
Does your wife, has she tried tying at all?
She's tied one fly, and it was because I prompted her to. I was like, "Hey, you should really do this." I mean, like, you've got really good attention to detail, so I think you'd be good at this. And she said, "I'll tie one." And so I think we sat down and we tied like it was like a sweet pea jig or like a skinny Nelson, something like that. And real simple pattern, you know. But I was amazed at somebody who just sat down, and I kind of showed her, you know, okay, this is how bobbin works. This is what you need to do. You know, I'll tell you where to put the materials, and just, you know, from, you know, just one little thing, she was able to put that together, and it looked half-assed decent. Like, it looked decent. and a lot better than the first flies that I tied, and I'm thinking to myself, well, better not do this for too much longer because she's going to be better than me.
But she was a woman of her word, huh? She one and done?
Yeah, she sat down, tied it, and then went back to whatever she was doing.
Yeah, I know my wife's way more artistic than I am. I know she'd be awesome at fly tying, but I haven't been able to quite sink her into that one yet.
I don't know about you, but it was like when I started, and I didn't start too long ago, but I've really gotten into it. I didn't think I'd have the patience to do it.
Yeah, there's been times in my life when I haven't.
Yeah, that's probably true.
I kind of have fly tying ADD. Like I can only tie, if I tie a dozen of the same fly, that's hard for me. I typically tie between 3 and 6 of one pattern and then move on. Are you able to sit down and crank out a bunch of them?
Nope, I can't do it. I just don't have it in me. Kind of like you, I just, I've got so many ideas flowing through my head when you sit down and you start spinning that first bug. And, I may start with something that's like a sow bug, like sort of like a Ray Charles. And then before you know it, I'm off to tying something like, like a barely legal or a golden, or even a pike fly.
Right.
And it's, when you've got materials at your disposal and things like that, it's pretty easy just to switch gears and say, you know what, I'm tired of this. I want to move on to this and go to that.
Yeah, there's certain flies you have to have, right? Like, all right, I got to sit down. I got to tie pheasant tails, or I got to tie chubbies. I got to tie, parachute atoms or whatever. And then I kind of sit down and grind those out. And then I'm like, all right, now I can have some fun and tie a steelhead fly, or I love tying pike flies. Yeah, that's kind of my process. Scatterbrain.
Yeah, no, I totally identify with what you're saying, because those first few that like if you're going out and you're tying flies the night before, because that's just how it works, It's
right.
Like, I've got all week to do it, but you know what? I think I'm going to wait till like 10 o'clock on Friday before I tie, and sit down at the bench or whatever and spin out a few of those, and they just feel like a freaking chore. And then you get to doing what you want to do, and before you know it, it's midnight, 1 o'clock, and you're looking at a half-finished pike fly, and you're like, God, I got about a half hour left on this thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's gonna get just destroyed after about 2 fish.
Oh yeah, pretty much.
If you had, for your zone, for your region, if you were limited to one, let's say one dry fly, what would it be for the summer?
Oh. Spring into summer, probably go with the Betas pattern. Probably go with something like a student, which I think is a phenomenal pattern. Or
I don't even know what that is. I'm gonna have to look that up.
Look it up. It's popular on the Bighorn too. But it's just basically, it's the simplest dry fly pattern. It's basically a CDC feather, one or two CDC feathers, and you just lay it on the hook, create a tail, get a body and a wing, and that's it. But it ropes fish, and
Nice.
I like fishing a student.
Like my kind of dry fly.
Oh yeah. You're not doing parachutes or anything like that. I do have a soft spot for caddis though, just a simple elk-hair caddis, or God, what's that one with the Z-line coming out for the tail?
X-caddis?
X-caddis, yes.
I love that fly.
It's just so versatile.
It is. It's funny because around here, like, we don't fish a ton of caddis. And where I grew up in Central Oregon, and on a river that was, caddis-centric. And we fished a ton of caddis. And in fact, I remember asking one of the outfitters that I worked for one day. I was like, "Hey, man, you got any elk hairs?" Or he's like, "What?" I'm like, you got an elk hair or a Goddard or an X-caddis or something?" He's like, He's like, "I don't have a caddis in my box." I don't own a caddis fly. guide and an outfitter here for 20 years or something. So anyway, yeah, it's funny how, but I love that X-Caddis. And last year we were on the Missouri. Fishing was tough, water was high, and it just kind of like fish just started coming up kind of late in the day on the second or third day or whatever it was. And they were finicky like those Missouri fish are. And I put on that X-Caddis, and they all ate it. And my buddy, who's from Bozeman, was like, "What are you fishing?" And I showed him. He's like, "I've never even seen that thing." Like, how do you not know about the X-Caddis, man?
Oh my God, that thing just kills fish.
It does. It's the best. It's a Craig Matthews pattern, isn't it?
I think so. I think that is a Craig Matthews pattern.
Yeah, with the Comparadon with the Zelon tail too, I think.
Yep.
I think that's the same guy.
I remember picking up my first X-Caddis I was at Jacqueline's in West Yellowstone. They said, pick this up and they're going to be hatching, like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So I got to the Firehole River at 1 in the afternoon, and they were popping, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I was catching fish, man.
Yeah, man, they love that bug.
They do.
Yep, it is an awesome fly. So what's the name of you're the director of a nonprofit, right, Marcus?
Yeah, I am. I run a nonprofit called Trek, and what we do are family programs. We do Head Start programs for children in need and families in need. And, need's kind of really a relative term because we see families from all walks of life. We see families that have economic challenges but are really rich in other ways. And then we see families who don't have as many typical economic challenges but have, some struggles in other ways. And so we're there to work with the whole family and help them to, as I tell kind of my team is we want families to be better off than when they came into the program. And so I didn't know it. When I was in undergrad, I was thinking I was going to be an attorney, and for some reason, public service fit. I liked helping people. I liked numbers. I liked research. I liked nerdy stuff, and I just liked helping people. And so when I left the Department of Education in 2010 or 2014, it was to help people in the community that I grew up in, and a community that I loved and thought was a great place to raise kids, And so that's probably what my life's going to end up being, is helping another person because I think it's important. And I think that when you see some of those families that are, for lack of a better term, kind of down on their luck, and you work with them and give them the tools that they need to succeed, and you see those successes and you see those families flourish, and they come back to you in a couple of years and say, hey, you know what? It's because of your program, or it's because of this person, or this teacher, this home visitor that made me the person I am today. That's a pretty incredible feeling. And it's hard to quantify that with a salary. And so, what some nonprofits lack in salary, they make up for and things like that. So it's been a stressful journey. It's been an incredible journey. But that's what we do. We help families. And so we serve 4 counties in the western South Dakota and about 160 families. So.
Well, that's awesome, man. And, now more than ever, families need all the support they can muster.
Yeah, I think you're right, because you're not seeing, at least, from what we've seen. I don't know how you grew up, but we had a pretty strong nuclear family, and you're not seeing as much of that anymore. You're seeing a lot more single parent families.
Right. Yeah. How can folks help your nonprofit? Is there a way they can reach out to you?
Well, we only serve certain families in the area, and so the best thing is we've got a Facebook page, we've got a website, but we can't fundraise because of federal rules, so that's kind of out of the picture. But no, we're always in need of volunteers, things like that. So if people are in the area, and want to volunteer with us, we're always willing to accept volunteers.
Cool. And what's that Facebook page?
It's called Trek Badlands Head Start.
Trek Badlands Head Start. Got it. So
yep, and that's all you got to do is Google that or Facebook that, and the website and the Facebook page will show up. So
go to thefebruaryroom.com, where you can access a complete library of our podcast and read more about our guests, their fishing stories, and favorite fly patterns. We're always looking for exceptional fly fishing yarns, and if you have one to spin, shoot us an email at info@thefebruaryroom.com. The February Room is always free, but if you feel like throwing a nickel in the pond, we appreciate any additional listener support. For companies and individuals interested in sponsorship opportunities, please contact us for our media kit. Thanks for stopping by the February Room, and we'll see you down here next week.